What's up guys, Luke here with Luke's Points and Miles, and today I'm doing a follow-up to my series about airline status. If you're a fan of the channel, then you might remember that at the beginning of the year I had a wonderful plan to gain status with both American Airlines and Delta Airlines, and I wanted to evaluate which one was worth it and how easy that status was to get. Now it is early November, and I can tell you that I was wrong about a lot of things. This is not out of the ordinary with me. I'm wrong about a lot of things, a lot of the times. I'm not afraid to admit it. I try to learn from it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what I was wrong about as far as airline status. I'm going to explain to you where I am as far as the mission to gain status, and I'll tell you how I plan to approach this same topic in 2023. But first, if you're new to the channel, I talk about credit cards, points, miles, cashback, and travel. If you want to keep up on those topics, subscribe to the channel, and if you get any value at all in my mistakes, I mean this video, then hit the like button for me. So let's review. In 2022, I wanted to gain airline status with the two airlines that I fly most frequently, American Airlines and Delta Airlines. It's also important to note where I normally fly out of, and that is John Glenn International in Columbus, Ohio. I'll include the airline market share, and this should give you a good idea of how status could affect upgrades flying out of here. As far as competition, relatively speaking, there aren't a ton of high status holders here in Columbus because they all want those Slim Jims and Mountain Dew the crew serves on Southwest Airlines. I'm kidding. I don't even know if they serve food on those flights. My thoughts were that holding status with these two airlines would yield better than average results compared to someone flying out of Atlanta or Dallas-Fort Worth. It's also worth noting that there are no lounges currently in my home airport. Amex is building an escape lounge that was supposed to be open this year, but I've never seen it. Hoping you have an idea on how to gain status with American Airlines and Delta Airlines, but if you don't, I have a few videos on the process and I'll link them below. At the beginning of 2022, I had flights scheduled for almost every month and they were split between the two carriers. I currently carry the Citi Advantage Business MasterCard and the American Express Business Delta Reserve. Now that we are all caught up, I want to tell you about my current position with each program. With American Airlines, I reached gold status quickly due to their new loyalty program being pretty easy to spend your way to gold. I want to report that when flying out of Columbus, with American only holding 10% or so of the market share, I've been offered upgrades to first class on 3 of 4 flights. Once I had to turn it down because I had my son with me and I was the last first class seat offered, but it was still cool to get the offer. I have to say, with American Airlines' current loyalty program, if you don't mind carrying one of their co-branded credit cards, for me at least, it's worth qualifying for gold. It doesn't take a ton of spend. I think a lot of folks can reach gold by flying a few flights, spending on the credit card, and using the American Airlines shopping portal and Simply Miles when it benefits you. 30,000 loyalty points is easily attained for anyone that wants to give that goal some attention. Now we have Delta. Delta is the carrier my wife always requests, and I think they do have the best hard product out of the domestic airlines. I had a lot of Delta flights scheduled for 2022, and I had everything mathed up just right to hit silver status by the end of the year, no problem. I even had tentative plans to get the MQD waiver from spending $25,000 on the Delta Reserve card. Well, this is where things get somewhat complicated. I'll start with the Airmageddon summer of 2022, where Delta and other carriers just canceled tons of flights. I had a vacation plan to Cancun and that one was canceled. To make matters worse, it was a huge gamble to book anything to replace it because there was no end in sight to the cancellations. Then the new dog ate some mushrooms. Not the kind your long-haired buddy keeps in a wooden box under his bed, but the poisonous kind that grow in your backyard. Kylo Ren the dog was likely going to die right around the time we were supposed to go to our biannual New Orleans trip to watch the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals play the Saints. Not really wanting to leave the state while my son's dog was on his deathbed, I canceled that trip and forked over the $1,700 to the vet. Kylo Ren the dog is alive and well, and I'm not going to qualify for silver status this year. Now comes the monkey wrench. I decided that since I'm not going to qualify for status, I might as well try a Delta status match, and I've been temporarily granted silver status. I'll put the requirements up on the screen. If I reach these requirements in 90 days, then I get to keep the silver status through January 2024. Now, will I qualify? Not likely. My timing was extremely poor for one thing, but for the couple Delta flights I have coming up, at least I'll be silver status for a very short time. Now here's where some sage advice or words of wisdom could come into all of this, especially for Delta status. I will put on the screen how close I will end up to qualifying for silver status. I could make the decision to do some type of mileage run where I spend some extra money and take a flight I wouldn't normally just to qualify for the entry-level status with Delta. Or I could remember that I was told over and over again by the airline status experts that if you don't fly enough to qualify for status, you don't need status. When you look back on my airport market share, it makes logical sense to be a deal seeker and not a loyalty seeker as far as airlines. So I'm going to abandon my goals for airline status with 2 airlines. Now, that just means I'm not going to go out of my way to get status. I'm going to search for the best deals I can find, and if I want to book a first class flight, I'm going to book it in first class. I think I'm even going to go so far as to drop the airline cards from my system. Now, I want to explain what led to this decision and why I think the alternatives make more sense. I don't have a particular airline that I can be loyal to. Almost every flight I take will have to reposition to another airport or hub. I just don't have the kind of airport hub that has consistent flights to all my destinations domestically like someone in Detroit or Miami does. This makes sense for me to play the field and focus on something else. What I've decided to focus on is transferable currencies and learning to fly any airline I want on points and miles. I recently entered the Chase ecosystem, so now I have access to Southwest Airlines and United Airlines miles. I've learned how to use my Virgin Atlantic miles to book Delta flights and British Airways Avios to book my American Airlines flights. Also, I've realized that for cheap domestic flights, a lot of times it makes sense just to book those with cash. So I also have a lot more international travel in mind, like our Amsterdam trip, and I'm looking to go to Frankfurt, Germany on board the Singapore Suites in the near future. Those types of trips will require plenty of points and miles, so it doesn't make sense for me to put $25,000 spend on a Delta card that really earns peanuts. I hope this video isn't a downer, but this is my journey to airline status and if it's worth it to me. It's not, and I wanted to share that with you. In my opinion, the order of priority for the credit card game is the following: transferable currencies like American Express MR points, Chase UR points, and Capital One miles. A distant second is hotel specific points. I think the status at hotel chains is 100% worth it for me. I love the upgrades and the free food, and I love that my entire family can enjoy it. I've really been enjoying Hilton Diamond status for a couple years, and I may attempt Hyatt status. That decision is still pending. I'm checking out my first Hyatt property in December. Third is cold hard cashback. Even though I'm not focusing on cashback right now, it always has a place in my setup in case I need to turn that faucet on and start dripping that cashback. After all that is airline specific miles and status. Don't get me wrong, I'd still love to have a couple 100,000 American Airlines miles. It's just not something I'll be focusing on because after this whole long-winded talking head video, the domestic airlines just don't deserve my loyalty, and apparently I don't fly enough to need status. Comment below where airline status is on your list of priorities. Guys, check out my links below. Those links below support the channel and allow me to make videos without sponsored content. As always, guys, if you've stayed around all the way to the end, I thank you and I appreciate every single one of you.